Well, hello, folks. Welcome to Unit 2. We made it through week 1. And, like starting any course, sometimes that may be a little bit of a hill to climb and a little bit of a challenge. But I promise you, you will enjoy the course. We'll be hitting on a lot of material surrounding and centering on leadership, ethical decision-making, and so on. For this week, our focus will be on things that we call ethical breaches, conflicts of interest, even bribery issues, and you'll see that in the ethical dilemma link that I'll talk about here in a minute. We'll also cover a couple of important subjects and topics that you need to make sure you review, and that is ethical theory. I will discuss that in the chat, as well as what we call the rational choice decision model, and I will also discuss that in the chat. So that's what we're going to center on for week 2. So let me start off with the discussion board for this week. You will want, again, click on, and you'll see that in your assignment. It's called a link that says ethical dilemma. You will view that, and after viewing that, meaning you're looking at the material that's presented, it's about an invitation by Joe, a salesperson for the companies that are merging, and his customer Bill. It's about an invitation to spend the weekend on Bill's yacht. And Bill is a customer, and there are other things associated with the scenario that you'll read. What you'll need to determine after reading that is the gifts that are shared, and we'll talk in Unit 2 IP about a weekend and so on, but there are gifts shared in the early part of the ethical dilemma link. Are these forms of bribery? Now, I've provided you some information, and we'll talk about it in chat as well about what constitutes bribery. Then we'll also, as I mentioned, we'll discuss some of the ethical theories, not just leadership theories. And when I talk about decision-making, I'm talking about ethical decision-making. We will discuss several ethical theories that could be contributed to or attributed to what we're looking at in this scenario. You need to decide which one or more ethical theories support your assertion based on whether you believe it's a conflict of interest / bribery or not, and so on. Then, based on what the scenario presents, identify as the last task in your discussion board, are there any other ethical issues within the scenario? Feel free to talk about them. You may actually see something in there that will relate to your own professional experience, and you bring that in, obviously, and say, hey, this is similar to what I faced in real life here. Okay, so that's your discussion board. Now your individual project will continue with the same discussion link. You'll see an ethical dilemma link on that too. You need to, and as I mentioned earlier, you will need to apply the rational choice decision model to that whole scenario on whether or not Joe should join Bill on the yacht. Excuse me. The reason I say that is you will physically have to not only identify the steps, you need to also go through the math. Now, don't panic. Simple math, okay? You will decide the criterion for the decision model, the rational choice model. You will decide the weights, and I will explain that during the chat. And I've got a couple of examples. One's a little more complex than the other. The second one is fairly simple and straightforward. Once you work through that, that's the evidence you'll produce that you've actually gone through the math. And I'm stressing this now because it needs to be clear. You need to do the math on that rational choice model. Then, based on that and any other readings and relevant topics, you need to discuss whether Joe should accept or turn down the invitation and or reasons why he should accept. Should he accept it, the invitation to Bill's yacht? Should he reject it? Now, don't just please, not just a simple yes or no. Either way you go, why or why not, okay? And many people actually will discuss both ends. He should accept for this reason and should not accept for that reason. That's great. That's truly a substantive discussion. Finally, based on everything you read, is there truly a relationship that really looks like a conflict of interest or potentially could be a conflict of interest? I'll mention a term that I've used for many years, where it's the appearance of impropriety. That actually in law will constitute a conflict of interest. So you'll need to determine that. And as I said, you'll always have to back up your assertions to make sure to say, no, this is not a conflict, or no, this is not bribery, or yes, it is, and here's why or why not. So that pretty much covers the work for Unit 2. As always, please make sure your papers, you'll have a discussion board and an individual project. Make sure you follow APA format. That's required. So I hope to see you live on the chat. And if you can't attend because your schedule doesn't permit, I always encourage everyone, listen to the recorded archive, because I promise you, my intent is to always point you in the right direction, and you will gain some valuable information on the chat in support of your learning and your assignments for the week. In the meantime, have a wonderful week, and tune in next week for the mid one already, Chat 3. Take care, folks.